Hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial showcasing the great new linear extraction features for point clouds in BricsCAD v26.2. This is a hands-on tutorial, and we have step-by-step instructions and datasets for download. Check your screen for the download call to action, or if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the information in the description box below so you can try these great new features out for yourselves. Why Point Cloud Sweep? Pete and the team heard from both internal and external users. It's important to you to be able to extract linear features like curves or slabs in a semi-automated way. Doing this manually is slow and imprecise and likely to drive you crazy, but you're now able to add accuracy to your model where you need it. Bearing in mind, it is semi-automated, not automated, so you're always in charge. In this session, we'll talk about getting to know Profile Sweep. We'll look at more of the options that you have available. We'll look at viewing Profile Sweep output as civil objects. Then we'll take a short break and breathe. Then we'll come back to look at how we can skirt obstacles, and we'll wrap up. Now, this session does take 30 minutes, but I promise it won't hurt a lot. Maybe a little, not a lot. Let's get started. All right, let's get started. We're going to start BricsCAD in the modeling workspace. And here we're going to just start a new drawing. You want it to be metric. So let's go. We want to start from scratch. We want it to be metric. We're going to hit finish. Now, on the point cloud ribbon, we're going to import a new point cloud file. Here's the Point Cloud Cache Manager. What we're going to do is we're going to process a file. You want to just navigate to the LAZ file called linear extraction and hit open. You're going to have a dialog come up, and you don't have to do anything here. Just hit attach. Now what's going to happen is the Point Cloud Cache Manager is going to come back up, and it's going to tell you that you can do things while point clouds are processing in the background, and then you'll be notified when the process is finished. But if we just scroll down here, let's see. So we see that we're already 63%, and we're nearly done with the pre-processing of the point cloud. So you can see that it's inserted. If I move my dialog, you can see it's over there. But one of the things that I want to point out to you since V26 came out is that we now have more details about each point cloud. So it's a lot more intuitive. For example, here, the one that we've just put in has a data name. We can actually change this. We can just say street cloud. Then we can say it's in meters, and the GIS coordinate system is already there. So we don't have to attach it again. It's already in there. We can just hit close. So if you don't see it immediately, just hit your view cube on the top and that will zoom you to it. Let's get into these great new features for point clouds. What you want to do is you want to zoom in somewhere around here. And the workflow we're going to follow is that we're going to trace a curve. So if we zoom in, let's just zoom around this way. There we go. So we're going to start somewhere over here, and we're just going to create a profile sweep across this curve. Hit the button called Profile Sweep on the point cloud ribbon, and it's going to ask you to set the start point. Now you'll notice that right away, even if you didn't put any 3D eSnaps on, it activates the point cloud nearest 3D snap. So what you can do is you can just click somewhere on your curve, and then here it says, what direction do you want to go? Now we want to go in this direction. So if you look here in the window, you have a point cloud sweep window, and you can zoom in and pan like you would normally. So you can just use your mouse wheel to zoom in. You can hold your mouse wheel down to pan. And what we need to do here is add some key points. So what do we want to follow? So let's see, over here, this little red dot here, that's our first key point. That means it's the flat edge of the top of the curve. Then over here, we have the curve coming down. So we've got another one. Then let's click again, just normal left click to put our third key point. And then we can put our fourth key point. Now, you can see that it's in our window over here, but it's also now a blue line within our profile slice window. So what we want to do here is start looking at the controls. We don't want to go straight to multi-steps, which basically will automatically run this until it runs out of either road or point cloud or whatever. We want to change the drop down to single step. But before we do that, let's have a look at some of the other options. We're going to work with an accuracy of 80%. So the stepping will stop once the accuracy of what you've defined in your profile sweep window is less than 80%. Now you can put that up or you can put that down, depending on the level of accuracy you need. We're going to leave it at the default at 80. The step size is how long each step within the profile sweep is going to be. Now here we're looking at 1,200 millimeters. Let's leave that alone at the moment. And then the other options we're not going to bother about at the moment. We'll just go and drop down the step control menu and say single step. Click that. And you'll see in your window, we now have a single step of 1,200 millimeters. And you can see that the accuracy in the window is 94%. So it's still within our window of accuracy, but it's gone from 100% to 94%. Let's do another single step, see how that goes. We're still at 94% accuracy, so let's see what else happens. But before I do the next one, I'm going to change the step size to 600 millimeters. And I'm going to say multi-steps. And you'll see that it starts chugging away like a little train and then gives me a message saying that the accuracy has dropped to 79%, which is underneath our threshold. Now, the reason it did that was because it hit a gate. So if we just zoom around here, we can see that we've basically hit a wall. So it's taken all of that curve for us. What we can do, just to make sure that everything is all right, is we can go back through our previous steps, either by using these little forward and backward arrows, or by using the slider. So again, in our window, the blue line is that particular step that you're looking for. So we're not going to do a whole bunch more right now. We're happy with this. what we're going to do is we're going to hit apply. And there it's created some entities. If we go to the browser tree, we can see that we have our point cloud. We could hide that. Let's switch it back on. But we also have 437 line items. This is our profile. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into more of what we can do with the profile sweep. So I'm just going to use my VTube to zoom out to my entire point cloud. And I'm going to, let's just get rid of that little pop-up. I'm going to work over here this time. So let's zoom in and see whether we can get to this point over here. So we have another curve. Again, it's the same type of curve, and we want to do the same type of profile sweep. However, we're going to use a couple of different options, and we're going to see how we can adjust things mid-sweep, if you will, so in the middle of the command. Now again, you want to grab a start point. There we go. And tell it which way you want to go. Now you can see as you move the arrow around, that's the way we want to go. And here's our profile. So again, what you want to do is click to place key points. There we go. And you can see there's our first sweep step, if you will. Now, again, I'm going to just do a single step of 1,200 millimeters. There we go. Now, accuracy's gone down to 90%. Now, what we could do here is we could actually click and move these key points to better fit the frame, and then try again. So here we're up to 95. I think what we're going to do is we're going to change the step size again. So let's go and see. Let's change it from 1,200 to 1,000 and go through a couple of steps. Okay, we're on 95, 87. We might want to have a look at this one. So let's just adjust those key points and try one more. Now we're back up to 97. So we seem to be doing all right with our accuracy, but you'll notice that we're starting to lose sight of our sweep slice. So if you click this little button here, you will be able to keep the camera aligned with the movement of your slice. So as you go through, you'll see that the view moves with it. Okay, so we're doing all right here. Now, we've had a couple of single steps, 9 of them to be exactly, because we can see that here. Let's go and hit multi-steps and see where it gets us to. But we see here that our point cloud's starting to look a little bit weird. So I'm going to pause it. Now, if we zoom out, we can see that our point cloud starts to get a little bit sparse just after the roundabout area. And this is one of the reasons why I chose this point cloud, is because true life point clouds can very often be messy. But I want to show you that this technology works with messy point clouds as well as with pristine ones. Okay, we're still in the command, but we have a problem. This is not what we want. We can see over here. Now, how can we get rid of that? We can just go to the steps again, go back through the steps, or we can use the slider to take us back to where we think we were back on track. So it looks like step 88 out of 114. Right. How do we get rid of all of the other steps? So we want to keep steps 1 through 88, but we want to get rid of everything else. That's what this little bin is for. If you choose the drop down, you can either delete the previous steps, the current step, which means that only that step will be deleted, or the next steps. So we're going to choose the next steps. So now we have 88 steps, and we're going to learn a little bit more about the geometry outputs. So we have lines, polylines, surfaces, and string lines. Now by string lines, we mean Sybil strings. So we're going to choose them, and we're going to make sure that the output is both the key point lines and the step lines. So we want to choose both. Now, what would happen here? We're just going to zoom out a little bit. If we were to use this close loop option, it would basically just connect the end of your sweep to the beginning. Now, we don't want that here. We're just going to make sure that we're outputting to strings, where we've got both the key points and the steps, and we'll hit apply. And here we have our Sybil strings. Now we can see that if we change the workspace to Sybil survey, here we have our basic string group. And we can see there are all our strings. These can be edited. So if you go to string and then look at the string editor, we select string, enter. We can select strings and edit them just as you would for any other type of Sybil string. Now we're going to do one last sweep on this drawing just to have a look at another type of output you could have. So on the roundabout, there's a sign. I don't know whether it's a direction sign or whether it's a light or anything, but just go somewhere near there. Again, go to point cloud and hit your profile sweep. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say we want to go this way, and we're going to follow our curve that way. Within the profile sweep window, we're going to click to add our key points. Just change that a little bit. We're going to change the step size to 800. And we're just going to hit the keep camera aligned with movement so that we follow it in the view as it goes. And we're going to hit multi-steps. We're just going to let it go by itself. So there we go. Seems to be going pretty well. We do know that the point cloud starts becoming a little sparse soon, so we're going to hit. So our accuracy has dropped to 75, and there's nothing really that we can follow anymore. So we're going to choose our surface this time, and we're going to choose triangulate for the output option. So we're going to create a triangulated surface. Hit apply. And here is our almost done roundabout. But notice in the Sybil Explorer, this surface, this planar surface, is not a tin. So if we go to our structure browser again, and we look at our entities, we can see here that we have our planar surface, we have our string, we have lines at the opposite side of the point cloud, but this is not a tin. It's not a civil object. Now, could we create a civil tin from this? Unfortunately, not. What we can do is create tin surfaces from lines and polylines, but not an actual planar surface. So if you want to create civil objects, make sure that you don't use the surface option. Let's head back to our lines over here. Here they are. So if we go and we select them in our structure browser, there they are. Can I create a tin surface from those? I absolutely can. So let's hit tin surface. And we've selected our lines. Now at the command prompt, it says, the selection contains linear entities. What do you want these linear entities to be? Do you want them to be points, edges, or break lines? I want them to be break lines. So I'm going to hit break lines. It's going to ask us a couple more questions. Do you want to use weeding factors to simplify the surface? We say no. And we don't want to use supplementing factors in this case either. So if we click that, then underneath our civil browser, we have our surface, and we can see our surface by switching our point cloud off. So there it is. That's our tin surface created from lines, which we created from our point cloud sweep. Okay, people, thanks for staying with me this long. I promise you're not going to have to listen to me for that much longer. Let's zoom out and switch our point cloud back on. And there's just a couple more things that I want to show you. But first, let's take a little break. Okay, lovely people, welcome back. We're on the home straight. Here we have a new drawing. And what we're going to do is go over to our point cloud ribbon again, and we're going to import a new point file. So we have an LGSX file called Piazza della Repubblica. We're going to open that. And again, we're going to leave this as it is, and we're going to attach it. Now, this may take a little bit longer than our previous point cloud file, because I think it's about 1.3 gigs. So we'll just wait for this to cache itself, and I'll be right back with you. And we are back. So even though you see we're still 49% of the way through the caching process, the dataset has been brought in and it has been displayed. Here we can see we've got 158 million points. There are scans in this particular point cloud as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this to Piazza. And I'm just going to close that. So here we have our beautiful Italian square. Now, if you zoom in, you can see we have bubbles. So these are the scans. So double click on one and we have the Piazza della Repubblica there. You can use your middle mouse to click and drag around. That's just dragging around in the bubble viewer. Or, which I like to do, you can hold Control and A, and that will auto sync your camera to your bubble view in the point cloud. Really quite handy when you're working with multiple scans. All right, so let's close that one down and we'll go back to the top. What we're interested in here is this particular curve over here. So let's double click on the little bubble viewer to bring up the photo, and we're going to auto synchronize. And as you can see, there is a kiosk that's obscuring our curve over here. So what do we do if we have things obscuring what we want to sweep on? This is what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to just zoom in to this particular curve over here. Oh, that wasn't very well done at all, Linda. What are you doing there? So here we have our curve. I'm going to hit Profile Sweep, and we're going to do exactly what we did the last couple of exercises. So we want to give it something, and then we say where we want it to go. You can see it's a very simple curve, which is good. But again, we have to put in our key points. There we go. We're going to make our step size quite small. What do you think? 400 millimeters? And we're going to go straight for the multi-step option. Oh, but don't forget, let's keep the camera aligned with it. So let's see what's going on here. So you can see our little blue step line creeping like a little and it stopped. Why has it stopped? First of all, if we zoom around here, you can see it's hit our kiosk. You can see over here that there's a lot of noise. It doesn't really know what to do. So how do we skip the kiosk? This is where we grab this little center ball and we can just move it. To the other side of the kiosk. So let's see. Oh, no, that's a person. There we go. But we can also change our key points. There we go. Let's try it again. And again, it goes on. Now, it's got to this little bicycle stand over there, and that doesn't work properly. So what we need to do is just change that. Okay. And hit multi-steps again. Oh, it doesn't want to do it. So what we will do is we will put in a manual step, which will get us past the bike stands. And we can continue going on. We're past them. Over here, you can see these boards. We're ready to go back to multi-steps and finish the rest of it off. Again, we get to the edge of our point cloud where things become a little bit sparse. So pretty soon we're going to come up against an accuracy error, right? So we're going to, oh, what should we do here? Should it be lines? Let's just make polylines. We haven't made polylines yet. And hit apply. And let's go and see our curve. So that is how you get around obstacles when using the point cloud sweep command. Thank you for joining us for this session where we got to know Profile Sweep and all of its options, how we could view them as civil objects, and how we could skirt obstacles. I really appreciate you spending this time with us, and I hope you get to use this in your everyday workflows. That's all, folks. Bye for now.